Hi everyone, in this series of tutorials, I'm going to show you how to create the look that I developed for a talking head interview in the documentary that I'm currently working on, Real Value. To get started, I want to talk a little bit about how the shot that I'm going to be working with in this series was recorded, because I suspect that a lot of people who might be watching these tutorials are also filming their own content. So what we're looking at now is the original uncorrected cinemaDNG frame, and this shot was filmed using the Iconoscope ACAM-D2 with a vintage 25mm Schneider Cine-Xenon lens on a very, very bright day. And one of the reasons that this shot is going to need so much correction, and why I am using it for this series, is because of the environment that it was recorded in, and the fact that when I was filming the shot, I set the exposure of the camera to maximize the amount of data that I would capture, knowing full well that would mean that the overall shot when I brought it into DaVinci Resolve would be really flat and need a lot of correction. And I did this because I know that when I'm working with cinemaDNG, that if I capture the most data possible in a scene, that's going to help me in post to achieve the look that I want. So what I did for this shot was expose so that I wouldn't blow out the highlights, but also would not lose detail in the shadows. This compromise means that I am going to need to set the exposure for different areas of the image when I go in and do my color grading. The second area that I'm going to need to address in this shot is the focus of the image. Since this was shot on such a bright day, and I didn't have a neutral density filter with me, I ended up shooting this at about an f16, f22 split. Basically, this means that I have a very deep depth of field in the image, and just about everything is equally in focus. Additionally, because of how bright it was, and because I was using a vintage lens that's a bit soft anyway, the image is just soft overall. So what I'm going to need to do is adjust the focus of the different regions of the image in Resolve to draw a viewer's attention to the area of the frame, in this case the interview subject, that's most important. Third and finally, I'm going to need to adjust the color of the image to achieve the aesthetic look that I'm going for in this project. So to get started, the first thing that I do when I'm working on a shot like this is break the image down into the different pieces that I want to adjust. Now typically I just do this in my head, but to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, I've broken this image down into the three pieces that I'm going to be working with to create the final image. So the first piece is the background, the second piece is the subject, and then the third piece is the subject's face, where I really want to be directing the viewer's attention. For each of these pieces, I then decide how I'm going to adjust exposure, focus, and color to get the final look that I'm going for. And that's the process that I'm going to take you through in this series of tutorials.